This podcast is proudly sponsored by Joro Protein, a Rhode Island plant-based protein supplement company designed for athletes and adventurers. They deliver 25 grams of protein, 5 grams of BCAAs, and 18 essential vitamins and minerals. It's non-GMO, it's gluten-free, it's allergen-free, no artificial flavors, no added sugar or stevia, and it has no additional gums, thickeners, or fillers. Right now, you can get 30% off on this podcast with the code JORORODISTRENGTH2022. You can find them at joroprotein.com. All right, what's going on, guys? Dr. Matt here, host of the Roadie Strength Podcast. Got another special guest on today, Parsa Raissi. What's going on, man?
Not much. Thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here.
Of course. Yeah, we're recording out of the Bullfrog Fit Studios. We got Zach and Amber training upstairs. There's a couple of guys. I think I saw Vinny upstairs too, getting after it.
There for a while too.
Yeah. So the gym is popping right now. It's 8 p.m., but we're just getting started. So just want to give you a short bio. So I know you from here, from Bullfrog, doing a couple of Z camps. Seen you work hard, get after it like everybody. I know just from talking to you, you went to Bryant.
Yep.
Played tennis there.
Yes.
You guys did pretty well.
Not bad for the the 4 to 5 years I was there. We took home 4 championships, so it was nice.
Solid. You can't do much better. You can't ask for more than that.
No. We were fortunate in that sense.
Yeah, and we were just talking off air a little bit about you're really big into a little bit of like the LinkedIn scene, a little bit of, I wouldn't even say like influencer-esque, but some of that mindset work, business work. So I really want to dive into some of that stuff as well. So just to start it off, we're gonna get into some of the rapid fire questions. So first one, we got favorite coffee shop.
Okay, so I do a lot of my work. So fortunate, currently I'm a financial analyst. I work for my mother's company. And since I have the flexibility going in and out, Main Street Coffee, without a doubt.
Nice.
I'm there 3 to 4 times a week doing work there easily, and I'm like a regular now, so I absolutely love it.
So you're in East Greenwich a lot?
Yes.
Is that where...
Born and raised, East Greenwich.
What's your mom's shop name again?
Botanica Wedding Floral.
That's right. Cool. I was close to using them for my wedding, but unfortunately, you guys are so big. You're so popular. I couldn't get you. That Main Street Coffee is awesome.
Quality of the coffee is a lot better.
Yeah.
Everyone there is super nice. The people that are there are great, and it's sometimes tough for me because I go there, do my work, and get a bunch of lattes and good stuff in the morning. Then I go at nights for the bar. So
yeah,
it works.
The bar scene is awesome there too. It almost to some points like gets too busy there. It gets packed.
I guess I'm fortunate where I know the bartenders, so it's from the back of the room. If they see me, I can just wave a little bit, and they'll have my drink, I guess, ready in front of everyone else. But God, 20 minutes. Yes. When it's busy in there, it's busy.
Yeah. Do you have a go-to there? Go-to drink?
So go-to drink at nights, I would say you have to get the espresso martini.
Yeah.
During the day, recently they just put out a new seasonal menu, but I get the bourbon vanilla latte. That's what
nice.
I get. Yep.
Bourbon flavored?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
not actual bourbon in there? No.
A little too early for me.
Yeah, that's solid. Next question. I don't think they have food there, but favorite go-to breakfast spot?
That's a very, very good one. Okay. When I was at Bryant for a while, God, I don't even remember the name of the place now that I'm gone. But it ended up my senior and grad year, went to a place, Brewology. That was a very easy spot.
I've been there recently.
Good food, actually.
Really?
Really nice spot. Good lounge.
Yeah.
Nice.
That I'm living in Providence right now, and there's a couple people I know, just like local musicians and stuff, that will play there because they have a pretty good nightlife scene.
Yep.
Like, interesting you say that because I always compare them to Main Street Coffee, but
very
just not
similar,
as packed.
But it's a different setup. Yep.
Yeah.
Going in there for me, it's like if I want something quick, and sausage, egg, and cheese is easy go to, and I don't want to deal with the fake stuff. Especially you just feel terrible.
Yeah.
Food wise, you feel terrible, but over there you can actually get a legitimate egg and cheese done pretty quick, honestly.
That's
and
clutch.
It's great quality. So.
From just being there at the nighttime, I can't even fathom how they make food there because the setup is completely bar
insane.
scene.
Yep.
So that's cool. That's good to know. Next question we're switching scripts a little bit. We got favorite Instagram accounts. Now the way I describe this is maybe something that's just entertaining for you, or something that you learn from, or something that you just like.
Okay. This is I guess a little bit off topic, but a really funny one is the Gains. It's like
the Gains?
Social dating or like men's type Instagram, but a lot of memes. It's really funny.
Okay.
And then Patrick Bet-David, he's an entrepreneur who has multiple companies and he runs his own podcast. But he puts out a lot of good content if you want anything business or political related.
Was it McDavid?
Bet-David, Bet-David.
Gotcha. Really cool. All right. Yeah, you mentioned him off air a little bit too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Watch a lot of his stuff. I think for someone who, you can come out of nowhere and argue that some of the content they put out when they're either talking about global markets or political scene or law, anything that they're discussing, that they might be leaning towards one side. But for overall news that we're seeing right now, like content-wise, I got to say they're one of the best, I think.
Really?
For guys you can relate to or sit down and understand where they're coming from, all their backgrounds, they came out, I guess, from nothing and really built themselves up, and they have a huge following now. So
that's really
I love
cool.
watching their stuff.
So it's almost like a news, political, financial like side of things.
Yep.
And like kind of like day-to-day current events.
Yes.
Sweet. And like almost like they get into like almost like lay terms, so like you can easily understand it.
Yep.
In a way.
Very, very. They're personable. And it's easy versus, a lot of people don't want to, I guess, get their news off Instagram or even online or any type of news scene. It's just, it's bad quality. But these guys are straight to the point. They give their own take on everything. So it's nice to see different perspectives and where people are coming from. So it's easier for you to understand.
And the name of the account's Patrick Bet-David.
Yep, that's his personal account.
Nice. What's the overarching?
So the company that they do media out of is Valuetainment.
Okay.
And they have a bunch of different, you can go from comedy to skits, and then they have news, and they have finance, they have a bunch of different stuff.
Really cool.
But I believe they're out of South Florida.
Okay, cool. Next question, we have favorite podcast. Same thing, could be just something that's entertainment, something you learn from, or something you just like.
So I have two that I listen to other than Patrick's. I listen to Exchanges by Goldman Sachs. And this is weird. These, I guess, are more a little educational. Exchanges by Goldman Sachs, and then Bloomberg Business Week.
Nice.
They come out pretty often, every 2-3 days, and they just give a good rundown of everything that's going on in the world. Whatever you can think about is up on there, and just keeps you updated, keeps you going.
What's up, Zach? Zach's saying hi. We might grab him and get him on here in a second. All right, so next question we got. All right, let's recap. Patrick's, Exchanges by Goldman Sachs, Bloomberg Business Week.
Those are the best, I think.
Those are big three?
Other than yours.
Come on.
Yes.
Stop. Love it. All right, next question we got favorite books. And if you're more of a podcast guy than a book guy, I totally get that.
So I have 2 or 3. I actually even wrote them down. That's
let's
crazy.
Go.
So I used to hate reading books.
Sure.
Despised it until I finished my master's, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what switched in my head, but started to love reading, started to love books. I got a few. So one of them, if you want, I guess on relationship status, a friend of mine recommended this. He's a divorce lawyer, and he said this book helped him throughout his career. Is Men Are From Venus, Women Are From Mars. Breaks down just relationship, personal growth. And then I got one, Your Next 5 Moves is a good one. And then The Brothers Karamazov are the, I guess, 3 that are on my bucket list right now that I need to get through.
Nice. You're reading them currently?
Yep.
What was the last one? Brothers?
The Brothers Karamazov.
How do you spell that?
Karamozov.
Cool. What's that one about?
It's basically same thing, personal growth, but it basically takes 2 different types of people and compares them through different life scenarios all the way through.
Cool.
But I've heard from, that was actually one of, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
So that was one of his highly recommended books that he's read throughout his life.
Interesting. Okay.
So the same author I know has another one, Crime and Punishment.
Crime and Punishment?
Which I haven't started yet, but those are, I've heard 2 really, really good deep down.
And what about the other book, the Next 5 Moves? Are you starting to read that one?
That one I haven't started yet. I got to finish the current one I'm on. It was written. It's basically the 7 secrets. It's selling more by selling less. Mm-hmm. It was written by a gentleman, Alan Langer. He's a private consultant. Weirdly enough, he's a friend of mine as well. He works at a Main Street Coffee all the time.
No way.
But he wrote this book during COVID, and it breaks down how you conduct sales and marketing from either a personal or corporate standpoint, but based on psychology.
Interesting.
So based on personal, I guess, personality types, and breaking down how people behave based on saying different things. So if you're going to word, hey, do you want to go to this restaurant? You'd say no, versus would you be against going to this restaurant? And just
Right.
because you're flipping two words, now people are more apt to, yeah, be
Interesting.
willing to go there just because you rearranged the no from the end of the sentence to the beginning of the sentence.
Right.
That's one of the first things I took away.
I've heard some tactics and some techniques with that with this guy Alex Hormozy.
Yep.
Have you heard of him?
Yep.
Have you seen his
Big
stuff?
fan, yeah.
So he's got a lot of stuff like that. It's like if you change what someone's gonna say, like I might be getting this wrong, but in a sales situation, and to preface, I really dived into like sales recently because I really find it interesting, especially the whole concept of like. I think most people that aren't in the sales and business world have this kind of like dark view on the word sales in
100%,
general. They think it's like a dirty car salesman thing. But one of the books I read, I'm going way off topic, but Selling is Human by Daniel Pink. Have you heard that one?
I've heard of him, but I've never heard of the book.
Selling is Human was a great book that kind of was allowed me to like change my mind a little bit. Like, okay, every interaction you have like with another person in one way or another is almost like a sales interaction.
100%.
So kind of to flip that script of like, okay, there's something called ethical sales. There's something called like, if you can convince someone, let's say like if they're having cancer, if you can convince them to, take a cancer drug, like you're saving their life. So like there's a lot of good ways about it. But yeah, Hormozy.
He just wrote a book, if I'm not mistaken.
Hormozy, yeah, it's like
I gotta start that.
Is it $100 Million Secrets or something like that?
Something like that.
It was good. I read that one.
But I've seen some of the stuff he puts out. Really easy to
Yeah.
understand, and honestly, he's spot on with a lot of the points he makes.
So like for example, one of the ones he was saying is like if you I think this is right. Could be getting this wrong. If you're in a sales situation and you're asking someone, like you said, if they're automatically saying no, if you flip the switch, it'd be like, okay, would you be against it? And it's harder for them to say no versus yes in that situation. So it's interesting stuff. That's really cool. I definitely haven't like been able to like really practice or use any of this stuff, but I listened to it. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. That's one I'm gonna have to go back and like listen to again,
100%
for sure. But that's cool. So the 7 Secrets, Selling More by Selling Less. That's the name of the title.
That's the name of the title. Alan Langer.
Alan Langer, local guy.
Yep. He's
Sweet. Really cool. Is he so a businessman, I'm guessing?
So I know, had a very, very successful career in sales. Originally was never a sales guy, studied something completely different, got into sales, and then had a fantastic career, and then now he does private consulting.
Cool.
Specifically towards sales and marketing. But he wrote that book. It was recommended to me by another gentleman I work at that comes out of Main Street Coffee all the time.
No way.
And I actually ended up meeting Alan after the book was recommended, and then got to know each other super well. And I'm halfway through it, and he's a great writer, 2 describes and puts everything in a great situation for you not only to understand but kind of relate it to yourself.
Yeah.
And then 3 is just the way he breaks down sales, because he understands no one wants to sit and be sold, and no one actually wants to sell.
Right.
So just re-describing how the process is done and viewing it from a mental side, or I guess psychologically, is insane.
Yeah. I get that a lot. I think it was another thing Hormozy said, like, yeah, nobody wants to be sold to, but people want to buy things.
Yes.
Like
completely.
You give me the opportunity to buy something, like, oh, I want to do it, but nobody really wants to be sold to, in other words. So, but essentially they're the same thing.
It is completely. I mean, everything in the world, if you break anything down, is ultimately one person selling something or one person getting a good. That's just the foundation.
It is what it is. The other book you mentioned, Men Are From Venus, Women Are From Mars, I have that book too in hardcover, which I don't have too many books in hardcover. I do mostly Audible. I was working before I started. When I was working part-time for my business, doing strength and sport, I was doing a little bit of work at a nursing home, or actually assisted living facility, and there was a couple there who were like had been married for 50 years, like a really long time, and the wife, who is like well into her 90s, still really, really sharp. Some people, as they age, they stay sharp. And this is one of those people. She was really sharp. They could have a conversation just like me or you right now. Like, incredible. But that was the book she actually gave it to me. It was meant for she's like, here, take this book. This is a really important book.
I haven't started it yet, but
I haven't either. And that was years ago, so now I have to start it.
Yep, that's on my bucket list. I know that's in the next 2 or 3. I just have 3 right now that I just try to do every day 10 pages if I can of one of the 3, and then get to the other 2 later. So 30 pages a day, that's manageable.
That's cool.
And I think a lot of people, especially my generation, I know I'm technically classified as Gen Z. I'm 99, so
okay,
it would be Gen Z, and it's we're glued to the phones.
Yeah.
We're glued.
I can see it. Like, I mean, even me myself. Like, obviously, I'm right above that. I'm the millennial generation, but like, I get sucked into it. Like TikTok or Instagram, like you can get sucked into it super
Just
easy.
nonstop.
It's
sliding.
addictive.
And it's. I know. I want to say it was Bloomberg that did this study or YouTube that did the study, but it was. They broke down the amount of time and the attention span of people in different generations. So YouTube saw, I want to say, a 10 to 15% decrease in people watching just videos in the last 6 to 8 months because of TikTok and Instagram being short from anywhere from 10 to 45 seconds versus someone watching a 5 to 10 minute video.
Right.
So their attention span dropped tremendously, and then YouTube saw a drop. And I right when that study came out, weirdly enough, I went to go look up something on YouTube and read something about it. And then automatically I saw the video that was 15, 10, 5. I chose the video that was 3 minutes long without even instinctually picked it.
Yeah.
And I was like
I'm not going to waste my time.
Nope. I wake up in the morning sometimes, and I challenge anyone that's listening, like, wake up in the morning and don't even touch your phone. Sometimes
that's tough.
I go to check emails or whatever it is. Without even thinking, I swipe up, unlock the phone, and immediately I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
It just happens. I end up closing
Habitual.
it out. And it's crazy that our, I guess, predictions and movements can be predicted.
Yeah.
No problem. Like, if you look at a grocery store, easiest way to predict someone's conscious decisions as a consumer.
But how do you mean?
Like, if you walk in, grocery stores are all, I don't know to a certain extent, but I know everything is done specifically. You put fruits on one section of the aisle, and then towards the counters when you're cashing out, it's all cheap, really high margin snacks or chocolate goods, gum, whatever it is that are easy for someone to pick up as they're walking out. And organic, and all the foods, everything else is in the back of the store. So you have to walk through the entire store and see, let's say, everything that's processed or whatever it is. You have to go all the way through to the back of that. Like, take Stop and Shop, for example.
Yeah.
Eggs and milk are in the furthest corner of the store compared to anything else.
Yeah.
What is the first thing when you walk in? Stop and Shop.
I'm trying to think. So I go to Shaw's. The first thing, surprisingly, is a Starbucks.
Yep.
And then there's the customer service. There's actually some. It's actually produce. The one I'm at, but I know most of them are. Actually, a lot of them are produce.
Dave's is very similar. So produce is always on the right side, and aisle one, if you
is like cereal.
It's instant cereal.
Yeah.
High sugar juices, and then super processed snacks are the first two aisles. Always.
Yeah. Chips.
Yep. Big one.
And bread is all the way at the end too, which I mean, some people would argue against bread, but there's some good whole grain bread and stuff out there.
You can find something good.
Yeah, interesting. And then like all the tomato sauce and like pasta like in the middle.
Yep,
like the middle section.
And then you take just different aisles. If you take into consideration, you see a lot of snacks and more kids tailored foods or whatever the snack is. And I mean, this is relative to food. You can put it to any type of industry or sector, whatever store it is.
Yeah,
Could even be weightlifting.
Yeah.
But stuff on the bottom shelves are easier for kids to reach based on their height. So naturally, kid will, if you look like Sour Patch or whatever Oreos, something is on a lower shelf. If you, let's say you have a stack of 10, on the bottom 4 shelves will be higher processed or more kids tailored foods because a kid can grab that off the shelf. And I used to do that as a kid all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
They're not going to put that where higher than they can reach because they want you to buy it.
The parent is never going to make that decision to grab that.
No. That's funny. Oh, man. I just read another book that was really good. That was all about processed foods, which we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm gonna forget the name of it. Metabolical. I've mentioned on the podcast a couple times. It was dry, but it was good. It was. I mean, it's one of those books where it's basically it tells you like what you already know. Processed food is bad, but then the next like 500, 800, how many pages it was like, these are all the reasons why it's bad.
Well,
these are all the studies.
Everything. Not to interrupt you, but like being, I guess, a tennis player my whole life, playing juniors, I played low-level pros, like in the junior range, under 18 for about a year, and then played Division I. Yeah, you tell yourself you're healthy. Like, you know, if you took everyone on a spectrum, you'd, I guess, be tailored towards a little higher end. You eat cleaner, eat a little better. But let's say I never really understood or knew really how the food system works or how anything works until my senior year. So I studied law, was my undergrad, and my capstone coincidentally was a food law class. And I didn't really even know that until I walked into day one. And the professor was, shout out to Professor Ali Dadi. She was fantastic and super educated, very well-known, decorated professor. Broke down food law, but it was our own research. So I chose GMO food usage in the United States versus Europe and other countries. If you look right now, I don't know this is 2-3 years ago, but our GMO corn, soy, sugar, everything is in 95%, 92%, 91%.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're just going to be 100%. It was like one of the big things that I saw in a bunch of different studies that the big four, like you take Purdue, Monsanto,
Yep.
some of those guys that run all the manufacturing plants,
Yeah.
used to go and just either pressure or find some legal way to get an organic or a small grown farmer, especially on the West Coast, to just end up falling and selling to a big four due to the fact that they just broke some law or something. Something basically was made up, and financially you can't fight.
Bullied them.
You can't fight anyone like that.
Yeah.
So it's just we're more and more and more leaning towards a bad food system. And if you've ever seen it, I read the I believe it's called the Farm Bill.
Okay.
It's one of the most complex bills put out by Congress ever, I think. And
Interesting.
It's just, there are so many layers and layers and layers to this matrix or web.
Yeah.
That it's just tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. That must have been a pretty cool class.
It was sick.
Yeah.
It was like something I was never used to. It was super different, and it was a small class too. So everyone,
that's cool.
Some kids focused on. There were other athletes in the course that focused on supplements and how supplements are manufactured. How you see different supplements.
It's pretty loose regulations on those.
You get drug tested, and then you end up finding out that you tested positive for some type of substance. I had one of my teammates himself
really
ended up testing positive for hemp, for THC.
No way.
But obviously the kid, he had no idea, but one of his supplements had low traces of like hemp powder in it. Like hemp protein. You know, people go get the organic hemp.
Yeah.
No problem off the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah, his one of his supplements had it in there. He had no idea.
A lot of those, and I'm sure you can probably talk more to this, but as far as the tainted supplements, obviously people love to use that as an excuse, like, because kind of like the scapegoat. Like, but there is legit, because like you have these factories, maybe they're overseas somewhere, that are producing tons of different supplements using the same equipment, and maybe they don't have really good cleaning processes between one to the next. Then you can get some of those ingredients like commingle or co-mix between like one supplement to another. So that stuff happens.
Yep. And exactly. Like you said, the regulations are very
they're so
questionable.
Loose. Yeah. There really isn't much for the I don't think their FDA really does much at all with the supplement
Not much.
industry.
I mean, you can see. A lot of people kind of shit on the FDA and USDA, even like meat cuts. It's just the regulations have I guess become way more loose in the past 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. One thing that's been interesting, which my mom actually works in health safety.
Oh, sick.
So kind of like OSHA, but she's like more of like a private, like independent auditor over at Frito-Lay's up in like the Worcester area. But I started because some of the guys up here, they've been onto the raw milk, and she's like, "Don't you fucking drink raw milk?" I'm like, "Mom, I'm drinking it. It's pretty good. It's really tasty." She's like, "How dare you do that? That's so bad." But I mean, I've seen, obviously I know both sides of it. Like the fact that they've pasteurized milk has like prevented so much disease, like from a population standpoint, that it's not even funny. But then again, like, I don't know, if you're getting it from like a really good source and like the farmer and like, hey, they're doing a good job, I don't know. I don't see like, there's probably some benefit of getting it like pretty pure at the same time. Sure, you're risking it just like you're risking like eating raw eggs or like undercooked meat. Like if you know where it's coming from, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But my mom would say otherwise, so I'm sorry, Mom. I know she listens to some of these. She sent me some emails like how like the FDA is like pasteurizing milk is one of the greatest successes in the FDA's history of things. I'm like, which I mean, and my fiance is also lactose intolerant, so we drink a lot of oat milk. So I don't drink that much, Mom. Don't yell at me. But anyway, so we got 2 more rapid fire questions, which these aren't always so rapid, which is totally fine. We get some
we've
big
had
conversations
a
out of them
conversation so far.
So any travel plans? Been anywhere recently?
So most recent, went down to Miami, Florida
Cool.
for about a week. Went basically 2 weeks within the same month.
Okay.
1 week I just went for personal relaxation. Just kind of got a scope for, I guess, what career stuff is down there, looking for the future. And then the other one was
down there, maybe?
Yep, eventually.
Cool.
I'd love to. I mean, and then the other one had to go for work. We had a client that got married down there. They're originally from Rhode Island, so we did the wedding down there, and it was great. It was gorgeous weather, 75 every day. Couldn't go wrong.
In Miami?
Yep, in
That's cool.
Brickell specifically.
Okay.
Like the banking and equity district is gorgeous.
Oh.
It's different than, for someone who hasn't been to Brickell, I recommend going. if you took Boston and gave it the Miami spin, it was very clean, nice,
cool.
really nice people, good restaurants. You can drive around, no problem, great stores. It wasn't like you're downtown or I guess you're South Beach.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if people have gone, it's completely different.
I've been to Miami twice. The only place I've been is South Beach.
Yep.
So, and I know there's definitely areas of Miami you don't want to go to that are dangerous, but that's cool knowing that there's other parts that are.
Yep. It was
that
a
are
lot
cool,
quieter.
so,
I've heard if you're looking at nightlife wise, Brickell's great until 6, 7 o'clock. Yeah, there's nightlife, but no, not like the rest of Miami.
Yeah.
It's very quiet.
No, that's cool.
And then from there, I have a ton of points in miles. So
Yeah.
I'm planning to go see a buddy of mine in London.
Nice.
In May, July-ish.
Cool.
So I want to see if I can possibly stop by Wimbledon for a day or two.
You ever been?
No, I haven't.
That's gonna be cool.
Wimbledon's one of the ones that lifetime you got to make a trip one time.
During May, July, is there anything going on there?
I don't believe so. Other than I know the
tour
Prem is going on. So if you can get a game either midweek or Friday, Sunday, then great.
Cool.
But if not, there's so much you can do.
That's awesome. Wimbledon's grass field, right?
Yes.
So kind of similar to Newport in a way.
Yeah, very. So I know Newport has been tailoring their tournament a little bit more towards Wimbledon. So before
cool.
the reason Wimbledon is a little different than a lot of other grass tournaments is that underneath the grass and then you have the soil or whatever it is, there's cement underneath Wimbledon's courts. So a lot of times if you're playing on authentic grass, there's a few clubs that you can find authentic grass, just dirt right underneath.
Yeah.
The play style is completely different. Ball bounces a lot lower. It doesn't really grip off the grass. It skids a little bit. The balls get a little hefty due to moisture. But Wimbledon, the balls bounce a little bit higher. That's why you see the guys, they tear up the baseline a lot. They can actually plant their feet a little bit better. Yeah, they're playing with grass court shoes.
Sure.
Have little stuff. Like, you get better grip.
Yeah.
But still, you will see pros. And I used to be a women's hitting partner. So I've heard...
what does that mean?
Like, I used to train on the WTA for the women. There were a few tournaments where I was a training partner.
Cool.
So basically, if these... I guess outside of the top 50 or whatever it was, a girl didn't have a training partner or needed a warm-up partner before her match, like in the morning. I used to be one of those training partners. So I'd go out, either train, for the entire hour and a half session or whatever it is, or even just a half an hour warm-up in the morning before they go out and play in the afternoon. So it gave me like a great insight, because every kid always wants to go pro. But you only know a certain very, very small percentage actually makes it. And if you look at the total numbers, it's like you know at a young age whether you're doing it or not, realistically.
Yeah. I feel like it's like that with a lot of sports. Because of how competitive it is now. Like, you have to... There really aren't, I feel like, very many late bloomers. Like, you have to be good from the start. Incredibly good.
Very.
I mean, I'm sure there's some exceptions, but, like, most people, like, you have a gift, and it's pretty obvious from the start.
Yep. And I guess for tennis, like, being in New England is obviously tough. I mean, how many kids you see are ranked in the top 10, top 50 is very slim compared to states you see, like, let's take New York, Florida, California, Texas, your normal states that you expect.
Those are the big states for tennis?
Naturally. Just
Gotcha.
because this climate is obviously a huge thing.
Sure.
Your competition around you is a lot better. I would say a lot of times, if you're looking at Division I coach, and I've heard from coaches at, like, let's say UCF, I used to know a coach down there, and some schools in California, I guess the big ones, but they wouldn't even look at high school results unless you were in a specific area. So I had teammates of mine they were Florida kids.
Yeah.
But their Florida high school league is completely different than a league you would expect, I guess, in the Northeast or in other states, where it's like, you have kids come play recreationally, and then you have a few kids who might play full-time, and then some that are decent.
Yeah.
These kids, their roster, every single kid went Division I. And they're playing 6 to 8 other teams who are just like that. So in that case, your high school results may actually matter in the competition you're playing versus anything up here. So
it's probably almost like high school football in, like, Texas or something like that.
God.
It's just
everybody's
just
next level.
Yeah. That's cool. Going back to the grass court, have you played at the Newport course?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
A bunch of times. They used to host a tournament like 2-3 weeks before the actual tournament. It was basically for, like, people around here, young college kids. And it was like a qualifying tournament to get a spot in the qualifying.
Okay.
But it was like a pool. I believe the draw was a 32 draw. But I played that once or twice, and then a few other men's open tournaments there, because they host a national men's open during the summer.
Cool.
After the tournament. So I've played those, but grass is a whole different world. And
Yeah.
it doesn't suit my game style.
Sure.
I also don't have the patience or the mental tolerance for it.
For grass.
Yep.
You're more just regular court.
Hard court.
Yeah.
Really, I guess fast, grippy hard courts are my preference.
Sure.
I guess I've never had the best footwork, and I never, when I was younger, prioritized footwork. Even though everyone says footwork,
Yeah.
you don't realize it really makes a difference until it just hits you one day, and you're like, wow, my footwork is terrible. So,
are you talking like pure speed and agility, or actually the ability to like cut and like make turns? And
I would say both.
Yeah.
Speed,
Okay.
agility, you can argue. I mean, yeah, you can have guys who can still keep up with kids who move better than them, or just based on play, but
Sure.
there are a lot of scenarios where just specific steps or cuts or the way you transition your body make a huge difference.
Gotcha. Okay. Body position,
Everything.
literally where you put your foot compared to somebody
Yep.
else.
Even
how
just
you pivot on it.
moving, let's say I'm stepping out to my right, and for people who know tennis, you're hitting a forehand cross court. So it just means you're going across the court with your forehand on your dominant side.
Sure.
So for me, that'd be on my right side. I'm stepping outward. Now I can place my foot. So there's 2 to 3 different stances. You have open, closed, and neutral.
Okay.
Open stance means basically my chest and my body's facing the court. Closed stance means I'm perpendicular to the court, and neutral is in between, which is naturally what most people play in.
Sure.
I can step into closed stance completely across, or I can step going diagonal.
Okay.
And just that difference of a 45-degree angle still in the same stance can change basically where my ball is going in the entire court.
Wow.
My chest opens up, my hips turn and rotate, open up. So a lot of times I used to tell kids that I used to train, if you're going in open stance or you want to give yourself a little more forgiveness, step diagonally. Because then now your hips are just naturally, even if it's an inch, 2 inches,
Yeah.
coming across the ball, you have a better flexibility to go across the court rather than trying to put it there even if you're in a different position.
Right.
It just gives you forgiveness.
Interesting. And you used to coach was it high schoolers or?
So I used to coach privately a bunch of kids who played juniors.
Nice.
Some older people in the 30s, 40s who just wanted to get back into their play.
And juniors
then
is that between high school and college, or is that?
juniors can be anywhere
Or
from 12 to 18. Is
Okay.
technically what juniors is. But a lot
Gotcha.
of times kids really start getting serious. Up here, at least in New England, anywhere from, I guess, 14 to 17 is really when if you want to make it or you're going, then that's the age when you're grinding.
And is juniors similar to like juniors hockey, for example?
Similar.
Like, yeah.
Similar.
Okay.
So there are tournaments nowadays. There's a bunch of different circuits. So before it was always the ATP WTA was the pros. Then below that you have your Challenger Tour, which is like smaller tournaments. So the guys are still ATP. Below that you have ITF, which is like the pro circuit for kids who are under the age 18.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that, and then below that in the U.S., the USTA runs a bunch of tournaments, which is the main sanctioned circuit, and then you have another one that's UTR that relatively in the past, I guess, 5-6 years has been new, giving just a whole different system,
Yeah.
but it's giving people a chance to play in a more open bracket than you have. The USTA, for example, is like you have 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s, you have men's, but UTR, a lot of these kids who want to play up or do different things that don't necessarily have to play up in one age group. They can go and play a men's open. They can play anyone who's 30. They can play a college kid. They can play 22-year-old. They can play a 12-year-old.
Nice.
So I've seen a lot of the UTRs that I've played for either $2,000, $1,000, $3,000 cash, $5,000. You get kids who are all different age groups.
Gotcha.
And for, I guess, me, now that I'm out of school, or at that time when I was in school, good chance for me to train and get match play at a college level. But also gives the kids that I've seen younger, one, they get the experience of traveling, which a lot of times you go with your parents or whatever it is. It's great, but you don't really get the experience because you're not at like a real, I guess, tournament or a tournament that's a little bigger. Like you see guys at different.
Yeah.
It inspires you at a younger age.
Sure.
And then two, these kids get to play up automatically.
Right.
And they get a better skill set. They can compete a little bit higher. And it's like, from a kid's standpoint, if I was that age and I could play these tournaments, I was like, sick. I'm playing for money. Like I feel you're mentally in a better space to actually work harder and just grind. You have nothing to lose.
How good do you feel as a young kid playing against someone who's older than you, maybe more experienced, and you beat them?
It feels crazy. Feels crazy. I've only had two or three of those, but the 2 or 3 that I had were just a different feeling.
Because like, there's not many sports that are probably actually like that.
No.
Like if you're let's say playing hockey, for example, like yeah, sure, there's some variance, but like I don't know. Usually it's like the bigger, older guys are all playing their league. The younger guys all play. There's not really any mixing.
Yep.
But I guess with a sport like tennis, because it is like well, maybe you could give me an example, like because it's team, but it's also individual at the same time. I guess for college anyway.
For college, yep.
But But in an individual sport, like it doesn't matter if you're bigger, stronger. It's like, are you a better player or not?
Exactly.
You could be 10 years old. You could be like a 25-year-old. Like if you are that good, that's really interesting.
Yep. And there was one time, it was like probably one of the more nervous matches. It was on grass too, which didn't help me whatsoever. But I played because a lot of these tournaments are open when you're playing for cash, so gender-wise, it's not a split. So I ended up drawing a girl who was playing.
So they don't separate gender?
No.
Interesting.
So, I mean, there are, but a lot of times there aren't, I guess, a lot of girls that are playing or college or they're playing different tournaments where they don't come in and play the opens. And I ended up drawing a girl who was ranked like 600 in the world in women's on grass too, which didn't help me. And she was like playing a bunch of feeder and warm-ups to go for a feeder tournament in Connecticut and then playing the U.S. Open.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I won the first set, like 6-1, no problem. I was feeling great. I was like, all right, this is a breeze. And then just the second set in like 20 minutes, I lost like 6-2. And I was like, oh, my God. And I was like, everybody's watching. Like, a bunch of my buddies are here. Like, my coach is there. Like, and I was like, all right, I can't. I ended up pulling it out in the third set, like the tiebreaker. And I was like, all right, no problem. But that one was, it's a mental battle.
Yeah, I guess too. Seeing it from the other side of like, okay, am I getting beat by someone who's like, for other sports? I mean, like we could use like basketball for example, or like typically like the men's just purely due to physical attributes of like men are typically taller.
Yep.
Like a men's team versus women's team, there'd be doesn't matter what team you're on. Like the men would destroy the women's team for the most part. I mean, who knows? Maybe that what was the Iowa team that just wanted to they're awesome.
LSU, yeah.
They're but in tennis, like
there is a huge difference though.
Is there?
There? So right when I started, the first time you always see there's a difference. One, obviously strength, speed, agility is a difference. Girls also, for people who know tennis, like closed and open stance, women naturally tend to play an open stance.
Okay.
And men naturally tend to play in a closed stance because you're driving through the ball a little more, hitting a little bit harder. Women play with a little more spin, a little more height. But the first biggest thing I noticed is right when I was a hitting partner at the time, it was the WTA in Connecticut. It was 2 weeks before the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
So you got top girls, top 30, top 20, and then everyone else that's kind of feeding in. The biggest thing I noticed is that girls actually hit the ball very, very hard and in a straight line. So guys play naturally with a lot of spin. You're dropping, you're rolling over the top, a lot of RPMs. But women tend to actually hit the ball a lot flatter. So the ball is coming at a little faster pace than I was normally expecting. Like psychologically, from my peripheral, when I see the ball coming and I see a certain height coming over the net, these balls are becoming faster at me because I wasn't expecting that look.
Right. You're expecting curveballs, but you're getting fastballs.
Yep. And then women, when it comes to the serve, obviously guys hit a lot bigger serves strength-wise.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
And one of the big deciding factors I realized, there was a coach there who coached a few women, but he coached some of the guys on the TV. He said the biggest difference is that, so you have 3 serves on the men's side. You have flat serve, kick serve, and your slice serve. Flat is your big bomb, like you're hitting it just straight basically as hard as you can.
Yeah.
Kick serve, you're brushing the back of the ball so it bounces and kicks upwards in a certain direction. Slice is you're coming around the side of the ball or the top corner of the ball and it hits the ground and kind of slides off the court. Women naturally, if you take a majority standpoint, only have a flat or a slice serve. And there's I was hitting with a girl, Danielle Collins. At the time, she was a few years out of UVA. She was ranked highly, but after I hit with her the next year, that was basically her breakout year. Reached a Grand Slam final, won a bunch of tournaments. Now I want to say she's ranked top 20.
Wow. Currently?
Currently.
Wow.
And the first way I noticed is we were warming up, and naturally guys hit kick serves. That's your automatic go-to.
Yeah.
So I was hitting them, and it's not like she was struggling to return them, but it almost looked like she was like kind of shocked. Yeah. And the coach came up to me after like 5-10 minutes. He's like, "Hey man, can you stop hitting kick serves?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "That's uncommon for a girl to have a very, very strong or heavy kick serve."
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, and I was like, "What is the reason?" So I had ended up meeting 2 or 3 other coaches, and I kind of asked the same question because I was like super interested.
Yeah.
When you see it on TV, normally you don't see these types of things unless you're literally on the court or you've seen it or been around in your whole life.
Yeah.
He was like, women naturally don't work on their rear delts or have a strong rear delt, which is the reason why they can't naturally kick up in this motion super fast.
Gotcha.
And I realized from that point on, a lot of tennis players, like, yeah, your shoulders are strong and you can swing through the ball at a high speed, but tennis players naturally don't work on the rear delts a lot. So
no reason to.
Yeah, exactly. But that is the muscle that basically can control whether you're injured or not on when you're serving. That's where you get a lot of your pain from, is coming back here when you're going up. Your motion will be coming back behind you over the top, and then you're brushing going outwards.
Interesting.
But a lot of the speed and strength comes from your rear delt.
Interesting.
Which, I mean, for me, whenever I worked out or lifted or whatever it is, I played soccer my whole life as well, and I wrestled for 2 years, but I never worked out as a tennis player. I always worked out as football player, basketball player, soccer player, way different lifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that benefited me in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I could see compared to other people, maybe my movement wasn't as good, I wasn't as fast. Footwork, I would say, was decent, but still not compared to some of the kids I was playing with. But at the same time, I naturally had a bigger, stronger serve, just because I think I was developed differently than your natural tennis player was. And I was fortunate, I never got hurt, ever.
There you go.
The only pain I'd maybe have is, I mean, you naturally get tennis elbow or tendonitis. I got it in my right elbow, and then I got it in one of my knees. But take a little time off, it goes away. But my shoulders, no pain. And I saw a lot of my teammates, even other kids that I knew at other big schools, shoulder pains all the time. And I was like, the reason is because your rear delts aren't developed enough for you to be hitting consistently at the speed that you're hitting at.
It makes sense.
Even me, myself, like, serve was always my strength, and I would hit a huge serve, like 105, 110 plus. And all the time.
That's fast.
But it's unsustainable. Like,
So
I would just consistently go, let's say, a week, a month, and I'd just be hitting these all the time, and eventually I'd get soreness or pain. Because that muscle is a smaller muscle. It's like a specialty muscle. That's how I'd compare it. And obviously, you know the skeletal-wise better than me.
Yeah.
But you can only go to a certain extent or work on that muscle. So after I started...
You get an overwork injury or something like that,
So when I was younger, once I learned that, whenever I did shoulders, did anything, I always worked on my rear delt a little bit more than the front, because these two are, front and side are obviously a little more dominant and stronger. So I was behind the line with rear delt. So how I thought about it is, like, you put all three on a racetrack, sprinting 100 meters, my side delt and my front delt automatically are 25 yards ahead of my rear delt. So I was like, all right, I need to work my rear delt a little bit harder, and serve ended up getting better, more consistent. I was faster, and I had no pain ever.
That's awesome.
So that was...
You had really good balance to your shoulders.
Yep.
Especially because when you're actually coming through with the serve, you're probably getting a ton of front delt activation. So that muscle is probably already overpowering the other one as a tennis player in general. That makes a lot of sense.
It was weird. I guess if you ask 100, let's say college tennis players, for example, if you were to split men's specifically, they would a lot of times say, women, no problem. They'd never have a chance to get a guy. And you can very well argue that. I had a teammate of mine who ended up going pro. Kid was phenomenal. One of the best players ever to come out of the East Coast in a long time.
Nice.
This kid, he went to Bryant, one of the easily the most decorated athlete there, Matt Kuhar out of Smithfield.
Cool.
Shout out to him.
Local guy.
Yep. He, obviously, you could argue that from my perspective, I can take Kuhar and compare him to a top 50 girl. Like, Kuhar would probably win that match.
Yeah.
And there's a number of reasons. Obviously, he's stronger, faster, better strokes, but also the separation is not just physical or mental, it's also game style. Guys naturally play cross court a little bit more, wait for the rally, and then switch direction to go down the line or play aggressive. You can see a lot of times if you watch women in the top 100, it's a lot of variety. Yes, they still play cross court for the majority, but there's way more, I guess, variety of changing direction and moving around. That's why I think women naturally play an open stance a little bit more, because you're a little more on the run than guys kind of sitting in a pattern until they have a chance to make the move or whatever it is.
Gotcha. That's really interesting. You mentioned earlier a little bit off air that you were working with. You said there was a really high level coach that you were working with early on.
Yep.
Was that when you were in high school?
Yes, that was in high school. So it was a guy, Justin Natale. He was a brown guy, ended up going to Harvard. He went pro for a little bit. Now he was a hitting partner for a long, long time. Phenomenal player. But he actually showed me, I mean, we were talking about it off air, but the one study, for people who know it, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, is a book that was done on the biggest, I guess, main point out of the book is the 10,000 hour rule, where they studied originally Canadian hockey players, elite hockey players, and then they went on to compare the study to the Beatles and then Bill Gates. But these people were more successful because they were able to get this number of 10,000 hours of training or practice or game, whatever it is, that put them above what their competition was. So the biggest thing they found out of hockey players was off the bat, whenever it was based on when you were born. So they took the study of different age groups for multiple years, and they found that kids that were born in January, February, March, April, May had a higher chance of going pro and were objectively better hockey players and physically more developed, faster, stronger, and skated a lot better. And because at the cutoff, I believe hockey's January 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So
yeah.
if you're in that period, you end up playing up with the kids who are above you. So
Right.
naturally, you end up playing with kids who are already more developed. So automatically, you're going to more, I guess, be
Get to work even harder.
Yes,
to
exactly.
meet their level.
So the NHL, so what he called it, it was by Anderson Erickson. It was the 10,000 hour rule. That's where he found. But
Okay.
where Malcolm Gladwell, it was called the accumulative advantage, is what basically he called it. And the dates were January to June. And then the NHL did the study themselves. So they took every player in the NHL in the year of 2013, and they broke it down by when these guys were born and based on success. But they didn't take any Canadian hockey players into account. So these are the numbers based on everyone else that is in the NHL in 2013. So January 51, February 46, March 61, April 49. Go to the last 4 months of the year. You have September 36, October 34, November 33, and December 30. So the players that went pro that were non-Canadian in 2013, 207 of them in the NHL were born in the first 4 months. And they found that 133 were born in the last 4 months.
So twice as many, essentially.
In the first 4 months of the year.
Wow. So a significant difference.
So the NHL saw that after his research came out, they were like, yeah, this is on.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, that's like a 5 or 10%. No,
Yep.
it's like 50%.
50%.
That's insane.
So
So why did they include Canadian hockey players? Because it's
Canadian
different.
hockey players. The study was done on elite Canadian hockey players that were
okay.
they saw kids who were
Non-American.
born in beginning of the year naturally had a higher progression and a higher pathway to go pro. A lot better, just because they're more skilled and they were younger.
Right.
And then the same thing was done with the Beatles, where they compared the Beatles. They did practice hours and show hours. The Beatles compared to everyone else in that genre. And the Beatles put up way higher hours of show and performance compared to anyone else, which they hit that, I guess, quote unquote, that 10,000 hour mark.
Right.
Which
Right.
led to their success. And the same thing with Bill Gates. When he was starting his companies back in the 80s and 90s, he put in way more hours than anyone else in the same realm or people who were already ahead of him.
Right.
So it's that training and that amount of hours. They saw 10,000 was basically the digit that put you ahead of the curve with a competitive advantage.
So 10,000 hour rule. So let's say what's the math on that? Is that like 10 years of like full-time work or something like that? I know I did the math. I'll see if I can look it up. So 10,000 hours. I think it works its way out to be something like that.
Which I've seen even with tennis. So my brother's a tennis player. He plays at Byrant as well. He's Division I, phenomenal tennis player, lefty, really strong, naturally gifted. And I think the reason why my brother, for I guess his age group or when he played, was just naturally gifted and talented. And take into account a lot of times when he was younger, he didn't really train much, didn't want to go out and put in the hard work. But this kid was naturally gifted.
Yeah.
And at least me personally contribute. The reason why is because he used to always play up with me and the kids I trained with.
Yeah.
So he just naturally had to figure out and deal with kids who were stronger, faster, and hit a bigger ball. And then let's take, 6 months or a year into account, bang, flipped. And now automatically he is in a stronger position than other kids his age group.
And it's like that old saying, like you're kind of the sum of the people you surround yourself with. Like if you're a good athlete and you just put yourself into that training environment with other athletes who are better than you, you are going to get better.
And there's I don't know if you've heard it. It's the Rosado effect. So there's
No, I haven't heard that.
Look that up. There's it was a study done, same thing, in Pennsylvania that found basically it was Italian Americans who lived in this one town, had a longer lifetime, less heart rate, less health illnesses, nothing in this town. And they basically they concluded that the reason they ended up calling it the Rosado effect was based on the town name, but it was these people lived longer because they kept their community influence and lifestyle all the same. They were surrounded by the same people who did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So naturally, if they stripped their, I guess, Italian heritage and lived a little more Western American, ate differently, did different stuff, more active, whatever it is, everyone in the community was the exact same. They were surrounded by the same people who were doing the same thing, so they were influenced to follow the crowd, which ended up leading this Italian town to have a higher life expectancy, less heart related issues, and cardiovascular were a lot better and stronger.
That's wild. Yeah, decreased reduced rate of heart disease.
Yep.
Interesting.
Crazy.
I also, completely unrelated to that, there was a podcast I listened to on Joe Rogan with this guy who he's very Italian, but Italian American who was a big jiu-jitsu guy. I'm gonna forget the name of him. It was funny the way he looks and the way he sounds. He looks like so innocent, so young, like, but he's a killer in jiu-jitsu, and he's big on like, yeah, I source kind of back what we were talking about earlier, all of my food from Italy because of the GMO thing and like the way they make pasta and everything. Like he's like, if I eat pasta from here, it screws up my stomach. If I eat it from the source from Italy, I'm completely fine. I feel great. So it's really interesting. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, not completely related, but the Italian American thing. Like, many remember, like, oh yeah, like this pretty wild.
I mean, I know there's a number of different factors that are like, if you take, I know, I want to say it was either John Locke or Karl Marx, but they basically had a societal effect that was very similar to this, and I was one of the two, but it was like a political theory that said people from, it was basically like, if you were to relate it now, it'd kind of be like systemic or social hierarchy. Excuse me. People from a certain town, or let's say a certain age group, certain financial backing, people ended up, if you were going to put everyone on a graph, let's say a bar graph, the people that were higher up were from a community that was very the same or were a little more affluent. And then you had people from different community who was maybe less affluent, surrounded by a little bit crime more. Those people, next 40 years, ended up having lower levels of education or this, that, whatever it was, just because of society factors, literally due to nothing else.
Yeah.
Not even mental capacity, IQ.
That's the one variable.
Whatever it was, literally influence based on community.
Yeah.
And it was broken down like they took social into account, they took money into account, they took race into account, and then they took geographic into account as well. But
Community.
This is like an old, very, very old theory. Like it's got to be 1800s, 1900s.
Well, community is important. I mean, even from being a part of two different CrossFit gyms, which that's one of their precipices of like why they're successful is the community part of it. But also like even like a gym like here, like one of the things that I forget what there was like some sort of like course or something we went to for one of the CrossFit gyms was that like you can't just let community happen. You have to actually like curate it.
Yes.
So especially for a gym like this, I don't even know if I think it is they're doing it on purpose, but like what they've built here, which is a fantastic community as far as the gym goes.
First thing
it's
I saw day one when I got to Bullfrog was that.
I'm pretty sure, I've never asked them in person, but I'm pretty sure it's something that they have intentionally tried to curate. Like, this is what we want our gym to look like. This is what we want our gym to, like, the members to be like. This is what we want, like, the general style of training to be like. And, but, like, from one of the courses I went to, is like, you can't just let it happen because it will just kind of, like, become its own thing and it might get away from you. And you have to kind of, like, there'll be toxic people that come into the community, and you have to actively like get them out, and like it's very important and it's very interesting. And in the gym space, it's like to me, it's very apparent.
I can't even describe how much that applies to Bullfrog.
Yeah,
and I've been here for I don't know, maybe 2 years now, 2.5.
Yeah.
Instantly when I joined day one, that was one of the biggest value props.
The culture,
that I saw immediately.
Culture,
community.
Yeah.
Everyone is super outgoing. Everyone's super cool. There's not like, and I know a lot of people can relate to this. You go to a gym, you get intimidated. Even when I used to go lift at Bryant in our athlete gym,
sure,
there were a few guys who were NFL agents or ended up going pro in basketball. You have guys who ended up going AAA or AA, even NHL.
Yeah.
MLB from Bryant. And I used to see these kids in the gym. Automatically, I was intimidated.
Sure.
But a lot of people can crawl into a hole and I guess be a little intimidated. But I sometimes, would actually be genuinely like, all right, like, let me go to somewhere else. But it also like fueled me. When I get intimidated, it's like, all right, I want to put up a little more weight. I want to be able to compete in that same realm.
Totally.
Where I can be at that level. And it was the same thing right when I saw Bullfrog. Like, not to that extent where anyone intimidated, but everyone's super comfortable.
Yeah.
Someone will come up to you and ask you, hey, like, what is your take on this, or how can I clean my RDL? Let's take Zach, Jerry, and Sam Steen, for example.
Yeah.
My bench form, dumbbell bench, RDL, trap, and we'll take general exercises into account.
Yeah.
My form is cleaned up so much.
That's awesome.
Right off, I want to say the first 6 months I was there, I got my dumbbell bench form completely changed before. And a lot of times in college, I'd be surprised if there are a lot of kids who really know clean form, really understand how to lift different muscle groups. It's not it's not bodybuilding. I mean,
no.
It's just let's put up weight and grow, which Yes,
as strong as possible, as quick as possible.
It can be beneficial in so many ways, but at the
Right.
same time, right when I got here, let's say I used to be able to do 80, 90, hundreds on the dumbbell for 6 to 8, 9 reps. Like I could muscle in, and it was good weight.
Sure.
When I came here and my form cleaned up in literally, I'm not even kidding you, 10 minutes. Zach and Sam cleaned my form up in 10 minutes. I actually couldn't do the 70s or the 65s for a 10. It was like I realized, wow, I've been doing everything so wrong.
Yeah.
And now risk-wise, I'm so much safer.
Right.
I'm not going to get injured. I know that. My form is cleaner. I learned, first off. I can go on and let's say someone else is struggling. Like if I really want or they need help, I can actually end up showing that person how to clean up their form, and then everyone ends up getting better in the long run.
Totally.
And aesthetically, I think I look better.
Yeah.
So
it's working.
100%.
You're working and you're being safer.
That's why I love this place.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
It's like it's a whole world on its own. So
what time you usually come in work? You come in late, right?
So I used to come in the mornings, but now I come in some weird hours. Definitely late night, and then I've had my fair share of sessions at 1, 2 a.m. in the morning.
Nice. So I have a couple other questions as far as the podcast goes, just in general. But I wanted to see. I know you took some notes down. I wanted to make sure to see if there's anything else you really wanted to make sure you touched on, because I know we touched about it briefly when we first started, but some of the stuff you're doing, like maybe on LinkedIn or some of the other stuff you're diving into.
So why I love this and respect to you, obviously, for doing it is one, it gives everyone a different chance to go and learn or be educated on different topics in their own personal way. Yeah. Like if you take the school system into account, our school systems haven't changed on a global standpoint. True. If you look at a classroom now versus a classroom back in the early 1900s, it's exactly the same. Yeah. Like, true. I mean, in the 40s and let's like 2023, the classrooms are basically set up the same. I mean, maybe a little more collaborative, more innovative, but still baseline, it's professor or teacher in the front of the room and everyone kind of in rows, whatever it is. Tests. Yeah. So that hasn't changed. Yeah. But what has changed is the way people are absorbing and getting different information. So like we'll take me into account. I don't like, I guess, watching the news or whatever. I just don't like to see the different views, and it's more entertainment now than I think informative or anything. That's where they get the dollars from. The advertising dollars from being entertaining. And it's not even by choice. Like people are like, oh, like we'll I don't know, Don Lemon up there, or what's the Fox guy's name? I forgot his name. The opposite of Don Lemon. Yeah, you know. Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson. Yeah. Like people expect like he's literally doing that jokingly, but that's his job. That's literally what he has to do. Like he can behave in a completely other way. Like people doubt that. They're like, oh, this guy's just talking out of his ass. But that's I would disagree. I personally would be like, no, that's his job. That's what he has to do. That's what he has to portray. If he wanted to be a different way, then he wouldn't be on Fox Primetime. Yeah. Like, he can go to any of the newscasts and behave super maturely or talk very informatively, but he's in a phenomenal position. He's on Fox Primetime. Like, he's getting paid for the ratings for the reason that's why he does things. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's calculated. That's why, like, we'll take in like LinkedIn into account. I know basically you can say everyone has a LinkedIn. But a lot of people, and I've seen colleagues of mine, friends of mine who hate it for the reason that they think it's complete bullshit, which before I used to agree with. Yeah. Like you would see, I don't know, people just reposting something or just, I got a promotion, I got this, I got that. And it's like basically to just, I guess, jack up your confidence. Yeah. But ever since I kind of switched mine to, I guess, a creator LinkedIn, and I've been actually putting out content related to politics, law, capital markets, general finance, banking, and just putting out general information either I see or how I interpret something or my personal view, my entire feed completely changed to people who are doing the same thing. And like, I'll take this, for example, this kid who graduated from Michigan State. He has his MBA and he has his JD, did the program together, but he started doing this exactly. And this kid came up on my, had no idea who he was, had no connections, nothing. He came up on my feed. Ended up connecting with him, spoke to him on DMs for a little while. But this kid puts out like an article a week, and then he puts out a video a week, like 1 to 2 minute. But I've learned stuff from him, like just him putting out info that I didn't even know. Yeah. And just someone like that. And my feed has gotten a lot better now in the mornings instead of listening to like a rap. I think a lot of people like to talk about the dark side of social media in general, but there obviously is benefits to it. There are. It by definition, by name, social media, it's like you can be very social and meet different people and make different connections through those
through those outlets, through LinkedIn, through Instagram, through Facebook, even through TikTok.
Yep.
Although TikTok could be a different one on its own, but they're social. I think back in the day, I'm like, I was like, 'cause this is way long ago. I'm like, social media is stupid. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's blah. But I remember it was like, I think it was my girlfriend at the time. Was like, well, like, if you want to be more social, like, that's kind of not a bad way to do
Yep.
it. Like, you're like connecting with different people. And for some reason that stuck with me. I'm like, that's a good point. And obviously there is the dark side of it. There's like comparing yourself to other people. You can get
The culture now, I think, is terrible.
Yeah,
especially
it can be.
Maybe for not as much my generation. I would obviously tailor it towards. I think females struggle a little bit more on the confidence side.
Yep.
Comparison side. Just
everything's filtered.
Everything. And I forgot who it was who told me this, but they just put it out there. It was a girl who was an influencer too.
Yeah.
Made good money. Had at least 100,000. A friend of mine, and she used to be like, Instagram is just a highlight reel. And I was like,
sure.
You're completely right.
Sure.
You're not going day to day, whatever. You're just taking your camera roll from a certain period of time and finding the best picture with a good caption, tossing it up.
Right.
Just to keep a certain either image or whatever it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. People you can put out whatever you want and enjoy it. But to an extent now, I think the culture has shifted a little bit more where it's affecting people's mental awareness.
Yeah. You think you get that FOMO essentially every day.
Yes.
Like, why I'm having a bad day and these people are like on vacation or I don't know, somewhere in Mexico or whatever. And they're you're like, yeah, for sure. So it's a highlight reel, I guess, like for better or worse.
Yep. Even like if you take younger kids into account, like young, let's say 7th grade, 8th grade, kids who are 13, 14, 10 even.
Yeah.
These kids are zoned in. Like, my generation is bad on the phone. Like I wake up and natural, I'll open Instagram or my emails sometimes without even thinking about it. I'll wake up, turn the alarm off, and my hand will go to it on its own. But take these kids who are younger into account. It's like they
grew up.
That's all they watch is the iPad or, I don't know, people on YouTube that are making these different videos. Or even take like Logan Paul, for example.
Yeah.
The stuff that they've done. Yeah, they've done a lot of, I guess you can say some good stuff out of it. But at the same time, like take young kids into account. Like that's their TV.
It is.
And you're locked in because there is so much. If I want to go on turn on the TV and watch a movie or something, or see something good, like let's like the show Friends. It's always on at night, like 8, 9 p.m. Yeah, I'll throw a few episodes on. Love the show, but there's only a certain amount of Friends I can watch. Versus these kids on YouTube,
not unlimited.
There is an unlimited amount of Friends you can watch.
Yeah,
and it's just insane. Like I don't know, the world is different.
It's different for sure. Kind of off topic, but it's something I wanted to ask you. So you got your undergrad in Bryant.
Yep.
You got your master's at Bryant too?
I got my master's at Bryant as well.
What was your undergrad in?
So my undergrad was pre-law and politics.
Yep.
Was the program, or law and politics was the program.
And then master's?
International business. And it focused on a little bit into finance, but it gave me like a nice global view on a lot of different aspects. If you're just going to take, let's say, a business into account and you have like 5 different sectors or different fields or departments, like it really gave me a nice view into everything, which is the reason why I went with IB versus something different.
Cool. Along those lines, what do you think about the whole the bank collapse recently? Is that opening a can of worms? Or?
I don't know. We're in a weird situation now because now that the banking crisis is going crazy, you saw the Fed raised rates a quarter point or 25 basis points, like I want to say like a month ago. And then you have like I-bonds are going to get corrected soon. So you'll probably see another increase. I mean, a lot of people were optimistic for this year, but I'm not, genuinely. And take into account, like, I don't have a ton of experience or like, experience in capital markets, but I like to read. I listen to a lot of guys who put out good content, and you see, like, take all the stuff that's going on in Asia right now. China and Russia doing a piece, like they're working on transferring oil transactions to the yen. And then China, like I'm Iranian, I'm Persian, and the Chinese just brokered a peace deal between us and the Saudis, which hasn't happened in years. And now if the Saudis are considering moving oil to the yen, and then let's say Iran right now is going through a revolution and they're in debt, like, so what's causing the Saudis to say, hey, we'll bail you out, just go to the yen?
Right.
And then now you have 3 of the top oil producing countries in the world all in the same currency. Like, so I must think like we could be going backwards to an extent.
So essentially, would China just have a chokehold on the oil?
Yeah, basically. Or at least they have like good backing to challenge the system.
Right. Okay.
But it's, I don't know. I mean, that's way off topic from tennis. Like I have stats here on studies of like percentages of kids going pro and kids coming out of college. All right. So one of the first things there, the first study was done, it was a percentage of college tennis players that could go pro. Like a lot of times you have kids coming in like, yeah, I want to go pro. I always wanted to go pro as a kid. I played some big junior pro tournaments, like some of the biggest in the world. And I used to be surrounded by these kids who come with camps, coaches, whatever. And I was just like here from small state of Rhode Island, like just trying to compete.
When did you start?
Ooh, I would say I started 5, 6. But
Okay, young, yeah.
but didn't really start until I was like 10.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like always messed around, played with coaches and trained, but didn't really like actually play tennis until I was 10.
Yeah,
And there
yeah.
is a study right here. It's 3 researchers, University of Brussels, found percentage of kids in a certain age group of when they started. They took the pros in the top 300, broke it down by different categories: 200, 300, 150 to 200, 150 to 100, and then all the subcategories up to number 1 in the world. And they saw that 75% of the top 300 were kids that started 3 to 7.
Wow.
21%.
75%?
Yep. And then
They
they had
started 3 to 10.
3 to 7.
Oh, 3 to 7.
3 to 7.
Oh
But this
my
isn't just
God.
like, I guess, starting. Like a lot
So
of
if-
these kids actually played.
So if you start after the age of 7, your chance of going pro just plummets.
26%.
Oh my God.
26%.
Wow.
Yep. And they
I
found,
feel like most people don't even know they like tennis until high school.
no.
Yeah.
I didn't even.
Yeah.
I didn't like it until that point too.
Fair.
Half the time in college, I was like, God, I hate the sport.
But you're in it.
I'm in it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Sometimes when you get that deep into a sport, you do kind of like, I don't know, from knowing friends that are like, they've been playing hockey their whole life or basketball, they're like, oh, I have to go to practice again. Like, it almost becomes a grind. But I think that's probably because of how much work you put into it at that point, you know?
And my family, my dad's side is super athletic. They've been always. My dad played college soccer, played, I guess, professional club for a year, 2 years, and my grandfather was a gold medalist wrestler.
No way.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew that.
cool.
Zach loves it. He
No
eats that up.
way.
48 and 52 is a wrestler. And then my grand uncle was a weightlifter.
No way.
Both of them. Yep. 48, 52.
Was it from Iran or
Yep.
no?
Yep.
Iran always has a really good team.
Wrestling, weightlifting, volleyball, and soccer. We've been out for like the 4.
And like even now, I mean, I follow a lot of Olympic weightlifting. Like Iran always puts out an incredible team.
Well, I didn't even know. Zach just told me the newest Mr. Olympia is an Iranian guy.
Really?
I had no idea. Dude's massive.
That's insane.
Massive. And I would love to know his drug breakdown,
Yeah. True.
which is insane. But I guess, like, I don't know, going back to this from just a college standpoint, like 60% of the top 100 started under the age of 6.
Wow.
Of guys who are in the top 100, or women into account too.
Okay.
And when you see, I guess, people progressing from the college level to go pros, they found out of all their, by 18, less than 10,000 kids genuinely have a chance of going pro. And they found that out of that 10,000, the study saw that 10 legitimately would go pro out of that 10,000.
Out of 10,000.
Out of 10,000. 10,000 kids that have a shot, and 10 were guaranteed to actually break it into the top 200.
So you're talking about 10,000 tennis players.
Tennis players. And then if you, I don't break that down on a college scale, it's 314 Division I programs and 5,000 Division I players. So out of that Division I, kids who are actually going to make a nice living wage and do it for 10, 15 years.
Right.
Take top 200 into account. I could probably name 10 right now.
Yeah.
Out of a span of 5, 6 years.
Wow. It's
insane.
Yeah, there's not many,
It's
I guess.
insane.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, people always take like, hard work. It takes hard work. It takes dedication. It takes this. Yes, it does. But there are also, in my opinion, a lot of other factors that you have no control of that dictate whether you go or not.
It's like the LeBron James effect.
Yes.
Like you have to be a freak of nature.
Yep.
Not even there has to be something special about you.
And I've seen it. Like tennis specific. And do you know IMG Academy in Florida?
I've heard of it actually. Yeah.
So like a huge sports academy. They used to host one of the world's biggest junior tournaments, like on the junior pro tour. Like it was called the Eddie Herr International, and then there was another one at another academy, like 2 back to back. But I used to play the Eddie Herr every year, 12 until like 17.
Oh,
and I used to see some of the guys who were younger training, who'd played the tournament, who are now all top 20, top 30, top 40. I used to watch these guys. And now that I'm 5'10", 180, but now that I'm older and I'm grown out, these kids, I'm convinced, were physically developed at a way faster rate than kids who weren't. Like, there's a guy, Denis Shapovalov, Canadian kid. Got to really watch him and know him when he was like 15, 16. This kid was big. He was like, he was tall. Kid was like strong, built, like basically like a 24, 25
grown ass man.
yeah, basically at like 16, 17. And I was like, this kid's he's already developed.
Yeah.
So he's already ahead of the curve compared to anyone who's in college or even.
So he's gonna mop the floor of the competition.
Yeah,
essentially. Yeah. Just from a size.
That's always been the two factors, and this is off my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I always thought being physically developed at a younger age was a big factor.
Yep.
And then, God, I just had the other point on my head, but I just completely forgot it. But
coaching?
Yeah. Well, not necessarily, but it was one being physically developed, and then two, God, I completely. Workout wise, what your routine was. I always thought. I mean, this is more common. You see in the younger pros, the guys who are anywhere from 20 to 24 who are in the top 100 lift now more like soccer players or football players than I think. The old traditional tennis, a lot of aesthetics, like yoga, flexibility work, band work, lighter weights, explosive work.
Okay.
Rather than I see guys now hip thrust, bench, squat, and I think they're less injury prone because their muscles are more built to another sport.
Yeah.
Like yes, they're training in their specific sport, but they're more developed in a general sense.
Well, that's one of the things this is more for like youth baseball, but one of the things that predicts injury is kids that they specialize in one sport. If you only have,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and especially in youth baseball, if you only play one sport, you're going to have a high risk of injury. If you start to do a couple different sports, like especially in the off season, your chance of having injuries plummets.
So from like I don't know, if I played Little League, like if I stuck to Little League, basically I would have a higher rate of getting hurt.
If you only play baseball,
football or basketball with it.
Yeah.
Shit.
Especially at a young age, because you almost like you're saying, like you're overtraining, like you overtrain only the same muscles, you only develop the same muscles versus like your training, which you were training a couple different things at the same time. Like you're a perfect example of that.
Yeah, exactly. I never trained as a tennis player ever. Played tennis, but never trained. That's why I always felt like I never got hurt.
Yeah.
That was the reason. Never had knee injury, no problems. I mean, every tennis player has lower back pain. That's natural.
Yeah, sure.
But even then, like I've never really had anything major, even minor.
Yeah.
Compared to friends of mine who have had like serious pain.
Good.
Shoulder, elbow, I don't know, whatever it is. But
also off topic, and then we'll start to get towards the closing questions here. What's your favorite tennis shoe?
Okay, so I've always been a Nike guy. I've always thought Nike had way better shoes. I would say this is the Nike Vapor 9.5s or the X. Those are the Roger Federer shoes, basically from a few years ago, and I still play with them. So they don't make them, but I have to go on eBay and just get an older set. Those are always, I thought, super lightweight, had a lot of support, grip wise were great, never had any issues. They were super comfortable.
Another book, if you haven't already read it, Shoe Dog.
I gotta read
by
that.
Phil Knight. It's about the conception and the start of Nike, and like. I just finished reading on Audible. It's an incredible book. Like probably top 5 books I've read.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's really good.
They're coming out with the movie.
Now. I can't wait to see the movie. There's one scene in the book where he talks about like he's trying to sign endorsement deals for athletes because they didn't really do much of that back in the day. Like Nike was one of the companies that started doing that. And they're trying to sign some tennis guys, and they're at this tennis camp, and he's talking to the agents or the scouts there. He's like, yeah, like, all these guys are cool. Just stay away from court, like we said, like court 9 or something like that. The guy's a complete asshole. And he goes, and so I walked straight to court 9, and it was Johnny McEnroe.
No way!
It was one of the guys that he ended up signing. And I'm like, oh, that's super funny.
He was an actual creative legend for Nike.
Yeah,
like he kind of changed. McEnroe had his own line, and he kind of created some of the like. If you take legendary Nike shoes into account, I know. Guys specifically, like tennis guys will know there are set 4 or 5 Nike shoes that are like those are the ones.
Yeah.
And Rafa had 1 or 2, Federer's had 2, 3 or 4, and then there was another guy Del Potro had, and then McEnroe's shoe. I tried to get it as a kid one time, but you can never find them anywhere.
Really?
But they were like one of the most legendary. It was based off a basketball shoe because Johnny Mac, like back in the day, they used to play with higher ankle basketball shoes, basically.
Okay.
And then he turned it into a low tennis shoe. But that's like one of him and Agassi were like the 2 real Nike guys, I guess, started the way.
No way. Okay. You'd find that book fascinating. You should definitely.
I gotta read that.
I read it on Audible, and it's a long, like a couple hours, but it was definitely worth it. It was good. It's one of those books where like you can't wait to read it again. Like you get to the next part, but and the movie should be really good. Anything else you had written down that you want to get to?
I mean, that's it for me. It was just like crazy for people who I mean, considered tennis is, I guess, not one of those sports you normally take into account unless you're a little bit older or you get into it somehow, because it's an easy sport to play as you get older. Like pickleball now is like the
huge,
the thing.
It exploded.
I don't think I don't know what it is. I just think everyone
like
has
in the past 2 years.
One, I think it's fun. Two, it's super short movement.
Sure.
Not super physically demanding, and everyone can play. Like once, I don't know, let's say we're both 50, 60, and you and I can play and basically exert 100% effort. Like, I'm going to tell my buddies to come play.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell their buddies to come play. And it's...
If you have a competitive itch, like, this does it.
It's insane.
That's cool. All right, so just a couple questions to finish up. These are kind of like big picture questions, so you can take your time to think about it if you want to. But and I guess we can structure this towards like either what you're doing as far as like with your job, as far as like business, sales, or you can kind of take it from the standpoint of with tennis.
Okay.
Or any direction you want, but kind of, I guess, thinking of one or two of those things in mind. So first one is, what have you found to be the biggest roadblock, either for yourself or maybe clients or colleagues, that gets in the way of your success or their success, and maybe like business or sales or like even like in tennis, and you kind of choose your direction on that one.
So I'll go brief on both.
Okay.
But now I'm having a career change, or not a career change, but I'm trying to move up the ladder and go way bigger corporate setting where I want, this sounds weird, but I want to be a number, honestly, for at least a year, 2 years and really grind.
Just grind.
I'm hungry. So
Love it.
I want to go into investment banking.
Okay.
And I guess the roadblock I've had is my career path so far. And I've had some great career path. I used to run a nonprofit with my friend. It was like based on financial literacy and asset management for like poor kids in poor schools, where we set up a program at the bank, teach that stuff. It was great. Worked for my friend's startup, and he was a marketing kid. Yeah. Then I ended up working for a big corporate company. I did some business development and finance stuff, and then I have my current position now. I'm an analyst. But people ask me, like, why do you have such a unique and weird career path all over the spectrum? And it's like, at that time, I used to think it was great to be like learn different stuff. Like, I think it's great that I've learned all aspects of business in general, but it's also like, you didn't have the traditional career path to maybe, I might have the skills, but on paper, it's like someone can question, hey, why don't you didn't do this, or you didn't work for a big firm, or this.
You made a lot of lateral moves instead of vertical moves.
Completely. And a mentor of mine, family friend, this guy is like a phenomenal, he's a genius. He's an accountant, but he always told me, better to be a specialist than a generalist.
Sure.
And now that's definitely, I guess, biting me in the ass. And especially like, I wanted to go to law school, did everything, studied law, but now that I want to go to the banking and investments route, like I know I want to do it. Yeah. People, that's one of the first questions. Why'd you study law? Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with studying law. That shows you. Well, I was just talking to someone the other day who is, and it's funny, just the book is on my mind, but like another thing on that, who is just finishing law school. And they're talking about the LSAT. Yep. And I'm like, so like, what's on the test? Like, dude, it's nothing. I took my LSATs. It has zero. They're like, it basically tests your ability of logic. Yes. I'm like, so what do you mean? I remember this one. I had a professor. This guy's one of my favorite professors, Professor Marnaine, and he is a environmental studies guy and humanities guy. And in his course, I ended up taking a bunch of his courses because I loved him as a teacher. And read over this article by a certain author. And what do you know? I take my LSATs the next month. This article about polar ice glaciers and I don't know where ESG is going was like literally on the exam. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, why is this basically? And it was a passage right out of the article I had just read. Yeah. And I was just shocked because normally, I mean, I studied for the exam, but it was like, you take the exam and it has nothing to do with law, but you have no idea what's on there. Yeah. It could be something about tennis. It could be something about basketball. It could be literally about like the population of homeless people in a certain country. Like you have no idea. Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely wild. So, yeah, and I was asking like, so their math question, there's no math on the entire test. I'm like, I just couldn't comprehend like, so what's on it? Like, but anyway, so yeah, real quick, that book, the Shootout book that he was talking about, like during his early hirings, he said it didn't matter what position he was trying to fill, he would only hire lawyers and accountants. Interesting. Like if it was like a sales guy, marketing guy, he'd either hire a lawyer or accountant to do that. And people would be like, they were part of his company, be like,
why is our entire company lawyers and accountants? He's
Yep.
like, because I know they're going to be really like
They're
smart
on it, yep.
yeah, they're really good. So then, no, that's cool. That's cool that you went and did that.
Then I guess to answer quickly from a tennis standpoint,
Yeah.
I always wish I trained harder when I was
Yeah.
younger. Always, my biggest thing is I trained, lifted, worked hard. One, I was a little late. Two, I just didn't play enough tournaments. Like,
Sure.
match play is a huge thing, especially in the U.S. Being a junior, coming into college, I had the lowest match experience compared to anyone on my team. It was very obvious. And my first month in school, I had 2 of the biggest wins, I think one I've ever had in my career. And my coach used to always tell me, like, top 10 win at Bryant, just because it was like shocking. Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be matched up, and it was a doubles match, but I shouldn't be matched up to these 2 kids, and I shouldn't have ever had a chance. And it was just, that was one of the biggest things I lacked when I got into a match. You do certain points or in certain positions, mentally, you don't know how to behave. 2, you don't know how to. If it's 30-40 and it's like I'm serving at 4-5 and the entire team's match is on the line, like, I don't have the experience to know what serve I should hit or what my next ball is to automatically win the point.
Right.
I don't have
Right.
that. So maybe I'm going to be more inclined to, I don't know, make a decision to serve down the tee, and that's not the percentage ball.
Right.
But in my head, I'm like, oh, I haven't been in this position, but yeah, that may be it. But it's
Sure.
not. You know what I mean? So that was my biggest thing that I noticed, match play.
Match play. You're just
Yep.
getting reps in competition.
Yep.
That's cool. I like that. And then next question is basically the flip side of that. So what have you found to be the biggest, I call it keystone habit. So this is coming from the book Atomic Habits.
Yep.
Which is in
That's on my list, actually.
That's another top 5 book I've ever read. That was
heard.
fantastic. Really easy to read too, and it's good. But so biggest keystone habit, and the way they describe it in the book is like one habit, like if you think about the Keystone Arch, one habit that basically almost like domino effects like a bunch of other habits.
Okay.
So it's like some of the examples they use in the book are like I don't know, like maybe like starting a running program, like just all of a sudden starts making you also like drink more water and like eat healthier and like go out less. Like that one habit kind of like dominoed all these other habits.
Right when you said that, instantly off my head, discipline is the
Okay.
first way I could put it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many examples you can put the word discipline. Like, for example, this gym coming in and you're surrounded by guys who are all in phenomenal fucking shape.
Yeah.
Guys who are ripped, putting up heavy weights, working their ass off. And I've always considered you don't really get a good workout unless you're actually sweating. Like sometimes I come in and I'm not sweating. I'm like, I just wasted my entire time. Like that's just how I view it.
Yeah.
But it's discipline in a lot of different aspects: food, time management, your scheduling, actually going to work hard, and like take college to account. A lot of people like view it as student athletes, maybe even at Division I level, don't have a lot of time.
Sure.
I sometimes felt that I honestly had too much time, just because we're all put into a set schedule. Like you show up, an advisor makes your classes if you didn't pick it for yourself. So let's say 8 a.m., 9 a.m., you have 4 or 5 hours. You're just kind of, I don't know, doing work, something. You have lift at, this is our specific schedule. We'd lift 2 to 3, 3:15, and then we had practice like 4 to 6.
Yeah.
And then I used to love taking night classes, so let's add night class. But I had like
You're a night owl.
Yeah, I had a bunch of stuff to do during the day, and it was, how can I stay disciplined? I don't know, go do something or go do some, like after I finish my 2 classes, why don't I go do some homework? But there were a lot of times where I wasn't disciplined enough to even, like after my 2 classes, go into a study room and do some extra work. Or even on an off day, go get an extra lift in and just stay some type of active. Or even eating the right food. That's the biggest thing I see now. Like for me, last summer, I was in phenomenal shape because, and I'm a drinker. Like I drink straight tequila. That's it. So and we're in Newport too. Great scene.
Yeah.
When me and my buddies used to go out, I would come here for 2 hours and literally have crazy lifts before I went out.
Yeah.
And I was disciplined to, before I go out, or if I know that I'm drinking or taking excess calories in, like I'm coming to work hard.
And you have a better time when you're out too. That once you've gotten that, you're lifting. You're like, all right, I can relax a little bit. I can enjoy myself a little bit.
And
I've put the work in.
I was in great shape. Like I was in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
And I was like 170. After the summer kind of ended, I put on some weight and I track it in my fitness pal. I've been tracking my weight for 4 years, my dead weight. So I've been seeing it when September came around. I started to put on weight, and now this sounds terrible, but I have a calendar on my fridge, and it's a picture of 3, and I have on one page I have a picture of 3 professional athletes. one's a football player, one's a tennis player, and one's a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
All dudes are shredded.
Yeah.
But their pictures are right under the calendar when I X off every single day I worked out.
Let's go.
10 o'clock, 11 o'clock comes at night. When I go to open the fridge, right on the door handle, these guys' picture is right next to it. So I know
I like that it's on the fridge,
these
too.
dudes are shredded for a reason because they're not eating at 10, 11, 12, maybe something shitty or whatever it's like I'm literally about to do.
Yeah.
So it's caused me to stop. It caused me to automatically break bad habits.
I love
because
that.
I'm pressuring myself to see these 3 guys who are professional athletes and they're shredded. They must be eating or doing something differently that I'm doing that I'm not in that position.
Totally.
So it forces me to one, eat cleaner. And a friend of mine, he used to be a bodybuilder. He was a trainer.
Yeah.
And he used to have major eating problems. He ended up buying a timer, like a lock with a chain on it. This guy, to clean up his body and force himself to find good habits and be disciplined,
Yeah.
put a bike chain around his fridge handles with the lock. It only allowed him to open it twice a day.
Oh, my God.
So if he opened the fridge twice and once by accident, like he was done.
He was done. No more.
After a few months, he got into a great habit, and now
Yeah.
obviously he's not like that anymore. But
Yeah.
he eats super clean, and now he feels great. He loves it.
That's incredible.
He built discipline on his own. But I think
Discipline, yeah.
people have to, one, you can say you can go find discipline, you can grow it, yeah, but also at the same time, like you have to be very dedicated, I think, to go and build your own discipline. But at the same time, I think for a lot of people, it just hits you one day. Like something just clicks in your head and you become disciplined.
That light bulb moment or the aha moment.
Yep.
Or even like, and I've heard a lot of
think. Like sometimes just do stuff without thinking. Just go.
Yeah. I heard a lot of people even say like, once they really find their deep why of like what they're doing as far as like in their sport, athleticism, gym, like then it allows them to like really dial into like their discipline and kind of like relate back to it. Mm-hmm. Like this is why I'm doing it, and I've heard that too, which is cool.
Yep, that's the word I'd put up there over anything. Discipline.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so last question we got for you. So this is from Tim Ferriss's podcast. So essentially, you can think about it a little bit too if you need some time. But if you have a favorite quote or a mantra or saying, and the way he describes it is, so you're mostly in East Greenwich, right?
Yes.
So right by 95. Mm-hmm. Do you come over the bridge to come here?
Yeah, I do. I used to go sometimes through Massachusetts, but I just preferred going over the bridge.
Yeah, because right in the area, it might tell you either way to go north or south, right? To come to Portsmouth.
That's exactly the spot. You can go either north or you can go south. It's basically the same amount of time.
All right, so I don't know the billboards. So I don't know if there are any billboards if you go over the bridge, but north is a ton. So let's say the way Tim Ferriss describes it, essentially, or I describe it, is on 95, where the big blue bug is.
Yes.
There's that Rob Levine billboard.
Yes.
And I always use his name. One day he's gonna come after me, but you get his billboard for the day.
Yep.
And you can put whatever you want to the city, the people of Rhode Island, like or kind of like your community, your city, like a favorite quote, mantra, or saying, or anything you want to put on there. What would you put?
That's interesting. I mean, I've always, I guess, had some of my own where I put myself in certain positions, but I mean, I could name ones off other people, but one that I guess I've always felt that I've had really high self-confidence, and obviously I can wear or do whatever I want, and I'm confident, genuinely confident, and I feel great all the time.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. If different society factors or whatever it is, like you dress a certain way, you become more confident, and in the eyes of other people, we're naturally a society that judges people. So dress a certain way, you get judged better. And I mean, I genuinely believe in those factors, and some other people might. That's fine. But one thing that I believe I found of this quote personally, and it's no one. God, what was exactly word for word? You have to love yourself or no one else will.
That's great.
That was one that always, like, I've seen guys on my team not confident or this, that, other people. And I was like, you have to love yourself, and then you'll realize.
You know I like that a lot. I think
you have to love yourself before anyone will.
Yeah, that's really good. Cool.
But I can say that confidently.
Yeah,
so.
I love that. All right, good stuff. We'll end on that. We're 90 minutes in.
I know we went a long one today.
I usually keep it to an hour, but we were going, so I love it. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
That was awesome.
This was awesome. I'm glad I did this.
Yeah,
so.
good.
I'm hoping the viewers get to see this.
Yeah, this will be good. All right, Roadie Strength signing off.